Yeah. You know what a Stagville Plantation?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my family members lived on part of that property because part of that was the plantation at one time. And she moved out for about a year now. She's moved over to another part of Durham.
Wow. Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
It's very, very, very nice to meet you. Hopefully I'll see you guys again. I'm on my way to my grandson's basketball game.
Oh, okay. Over about Apex? Going over to Apex?
Oh, no, I'm in Jersey right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm in Teaneck. So
right.
I'm on my way. Yeah. So at my daughter and my son-in-law's house. So.
All right. Okay. Well, enjoy your day and be safe.
Okay. Thank you. And hopefully, I'll be in contact with you guys. And Miss Avante, Sister Avante Cousins, thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, we got Sister Pamela. She's one of the hosts today. I don't know if she's ready. Sister Pamela Gitombo, how you doing?
Hi, everyone. I'm definitely ready. Hey, Brother Jerry, how are you doing?
Hey, Pamela.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
How was everybody's week?
Sister
I
Pam.
hope it was
Hello, everybody.
Hey, hi to you and my sister back there. I see her.
Your sound went out, Pam.
Can you hear me?
Did you get yourself mute?
Can you? No, I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Can you hear me now? Okay, I apologize for that. I'm actually at work, so I'm in the break room. So I apologize. I'm going to turn the camera off for a minute. But I wanted to introduce the brother that's coming on. This is Jerry. He's a retired 30-year correctional officer. 20 years of working in the school system. He's a husband of June. As you see, his beautiful wife is right there with him. He has a daughter. They have 4 grandchildren. His hobbies are jogging and helping people, definitely helping people. This brother loves to be of help in any way that he possibly can. He's definitely a family man, and he encourages other people to be family oriented as well. And he's into family reunions and organizing family reunions. He's a vice president of his family reunion on his mother's side. He is a board. He's on the board at the historical site where his family is buried. And that's pretty interesting too, because he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to history and historical things, and genealogy. He's like a master to me in that area. So I'll let him come aboard and talk about what he's going to talk about today.
Thank you. Sister.
Okay, thank you, Sister Pam, for that introduction. I do appreciate that. And I hope I'm as good as she says I am when I get through today. But first thing I would like to do is thank Brother Malcolm for giving me this opportunity. This was something I wasn't expecting. And he called me one day and I said, yes, I'll be glad to do this. And so I decided that I would. I don't know who all's on the call, but I want to thank everyone for coming that want to be here, be a part of the call. And then I'll just give you a little bit of a history about myself, along a little bit what Sister Pam just gave. I'll let you know that I have done my research on my family history, and I have found on my paternal side that I am Kisana out of the Kisana tribe out of Burkina Faso, out of West Africa. And then on my mother's side, I found that I am Yoruba and Fulani. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background about where I come in and how I come about and finding about doing my history. And to give you a little bit of a background to that, what got me started at doing this, when I was a little boy, I always wanted to know who I was. And my great grandmother, who I got to know, she died when I was 12 years old. I knew her very well. She never talked a lot She never said much, but she had a way of speaking without having to say anything. And I always looked at her and paid attention to her. And she just like, she spoke to my spirit. And she was telling me as a 12-year-old boy, she said, go find your people. I remember it stuck with me, but I had no direction in which way to go to find this. So I started somewhere between 2010 and 12, right in there. I got started with another gentleman by the name of Larry Broom. And I started with him, and I found out he knew how to do research. So he started helping me do some research and started finding some of my family history. I took that and then started working it. And then I got in with another group called the House of Ancestry, and I started working with them. And then I started learning more and more and more about how to do my research and finding my family history and finding stuff like that. So that's just kind of a little bit of a short background of some of where I got started and how I got started. And Sister Pam's already covered some of the positions that I hold and what I do. And in doing that, just give you a little explanation about the history of me being on the board. Actually, my wife is on the board there as well. We do help make decisions about how to keep the upkeep of the historical site, things that we're trying to do to help make it better. I do teach my family history there on the historical site. I do that anywhere from 3 to 5 times a year. And we usually do it like on when we have what we call a corn shucking day. And if no one's never heard of that, corn shucking is where you actually just shuck corn, and then we have people who come in and we have dances, we have vendors, we have a lot of things that's going on. And on the site where my family is buried at, some of them are buried on the farm. I go down to the graveyard area and I do my teaching, and they come down and I let them know about the history of my family that's there on that historical site. I've been doing that now since 2012. And every year now they look for me to be there, and people are asking for me to come and do it. Anybody got any questions before we get into it? Okay. Now we'll start talking a little bit about why is it so important to do research? One of the reasons it's important to do research is, first of all, is to find you. Why is that important? Especially if you come here in this country of America. When you get to America through slavery, you will find that we all have been called many different names. We'll be called colored. We'd be called mulatto. We call mixed blood, musty, Indian, colored, black, Negro, even the word nigger. We've been called multiple different names in this country. In doing so, what did that do? That created a conflict. I forgot there was some more. There was free people of color. We also were called free issue. To do nothing but to confuse us. That's why it's so important that we learn to find how to do research to find us. Because out of those names today, we will talk about some of those names, about how you need to look into those names and how it can pertain to you. Some of them may not pertain to some people who are in here. If they're from Africa, they may and they may not. But we're going to show you still how you can do some research and finding yourself and finding to reconnect the people in the United States. First place to start looking, which is a big controversy for most people, they don't like to talk about it. They get scared. They get concerned about it. They get worried about it. And that's doing a DNA test. They said the first thing comes up, well, the government already knows too much about me. I won't deny that. But if you're going to find you, you're going to, the best way to start is to start with a DNA test. Why? Because the test starts to begin to give you some information about where to start to look. Most people want to start from the beginning. They want to start like where you are in the now. That's not a good place to start. You got to start from now and go back. So why? Because when you go backwards, you go back like to the 1800s, you then begin to start to find ancestry, because that's when the genetic makeup of you and I, that's when the genetic makeup of you and I began to start. It just didn't start today. It started back then. And then when you start looking at that far back, you're going to find more of the people, because why? Things have been geographically cut up today. When you even look at Africa, you look at the United States, you will find many of these countries, these states and countries have been geographically done. So that made it much more difficult for us to be able to reach ourselves and find ourselves. And then you add the colors that they've added to us on top of that, it makes it more complicated. But I want to talk about one of them that's a good one to do. Ancestry. I'm sorry, let me back up before I do that. I want to talk a little bit more about the test part. Most people are scared of the testing. They don't want their information out. I said that. But if you're going to find yourself, you're going to have to do a DNA test to find it. Now, some cases, you can actually find yourself without doing a DNA test. But being that you're African American in America, that's going to be pretty difficult because of what the white man done, the Europeans done to us, and the many names that they give us and the different titles that they gave us and classified us in many different ways will make that difficult for us to find, because it was designed to make it so that we could not find ourselves. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So if you want to find, you got to do that. You have to do that. Ancestry is a good one to start with to do that. Ancestry, though, what it does, it will give you a lot of regions. When I say regions, it will give you some of the more people and some more of the tribes of people, but won't give you the tribes of the areas of some of more your people that you and I would have come from. Like, I'll give you an example. For me, Bantu. I have some Cameroonian. I have like 20% of being people out of Cameroon and the Bantu people that are there. We have ancestry that are there. We haven't found them yet, but we're researching that, trying to find where they are. So just know that ancestry will give you regions. Plus, it's another good thing that they do. They also will help you match up with people that you will match to that has already taken a DNA test. If you look down on there, you will find that there's some people that you already related to. Then you can take that test and you can put it in a test called test that's even more accurate than Ancestry, 23andMe. It's more accurate than that. It gives you more detail. What that does, it goes into a database all over the world. And anyone that has taken a DNA test, that could be from Africa, they could be from Missouri, they could be from the UK, they could be from the Caribbean, wherever they might be from, every one of those people that has taken a test that will match up with you, because you get what they call a haplogroup, like a L1 or L2, B, whatever, all those numbers, whatever all that is, those numbers will give you a match to who you match up to from those people. You can actually even get in contact with them. They'll reach out to you. Many of the people that I have spoken with, I have matched up with them, and we've talked and done it through GEDmatch. We've done it through Ancestry. We've seen that where we're related at. It'll even break it down on there and let you know the relationship that you have with them, cousin, first cousin, second cousin, so forth and so on. The other one is 23andMe. 23andMe, it gives also regions, but it gives a little bit more if you want more. It will also give you things like medical. It can tell you what may be in your genetic makeup that you may be prone to have some kind of particular disease, or diabetes, whatever it might be. You may have it. It breaks it down a little bit more, and it's more detailed. Even with looking into some of the mitochondrial testing, it gives you more data about you and your DNA, who you are. So that's another good one that I strongly suggest if anybody decides wants to take. I haven't taken that one yet, but my wife and I are going to be doing that one at some point in time because it's more data, it's more information. And just know this, every test that you take does give you more information. It would tell you more, each one that you do, because each one of them breaks it down and gives you more data about who you are, about your health. And there's a cost a little bit more to the 23andMe when you do the health part of it. I think it's like $199 to do that. And if you don't do that part, you can do the other one for $99, which still gives you good information, more than Ancestry. It'll give you more. The next one is African Ancestry. African Ancestry is another good, very good test. Actually, it's been approved out of Africa. They accept a lot of the DNA testing from Africa. And the reason they do, these African tests that they do is strictly African test. You actually have an African test. When you do that test, it gives you every bit of the information, the direction, exact tribe that you come from. But when you get the exact tribe, keep this in mind. You get this tribe of people, but that's just the originate of you. Now, if you noticed, I went back and I set off my Ancestry test, and this is where it starts to give you more information, that I also have Cameroon, I also have Bantu, and then I have Southeast Asia. I have other ethnicity that's on that test. So just remember, when you do the African test, you are going strictly nothing but tribal, straight African test. You may have ancestors that have originated from that area that went to other areas, other parts of the country of Africa. So that's why you'll see something on Ancestry, say Cameroon, et cetera, Bantu, Nigeria, whatever. And then you go do your African test, you'll find that you are a particular tribe of people. Out of that tribe of people, I forgot to mention it, I believe I did say Kisana, yeah. The Kisana people. Okay. So I just want to get that across. So anybody would have any questions about understanding African DNA testing versus Ancestry DNA testing versus 23andMe testing, GEDmatch testing. Hopefully I've explained enough about that to get an understanding. So I'm going to stop and pause and see if anybody got any questions on that.
Okay, Brother Jerry, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for explaining everything. I mean, what you just say, it does give a lot of much better explanation of different tests and then what each test can do for you. You say that if you do Ancestry and then you enter your result on GEDmatch, you'll be able to find your family. So does that mean that you may save money doing African Ancestry because you're going to find people who are related to you? Then is it still, you still need to do African Ancestry to confirm anything, or will you just stop over there? If you find people from maybe Cameroon, from Ghana, and then you find a lot of people from that side, you can then connect directly to the people. You know that's my people. Do you need to do African Ancestry?
Yeah, okay. I still suggest, I think it's best to do both of them.
Okay.
And I do see the importance of saving the money, but you might not see the Cameroon maybe you went to Africa sales like here because we've been
We lost him for brother Jerry. We lost you for a minute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, I'll repeat what I just said. I said it's good to do both tests. I think the reason I think so, the African just gives you the tribe. I'm not going to say you cannot find your tribe through the ancestry test, but it would be might be a little bit more difficult unless you went to Africa and they pretty much know who you are. You probably be that way. When you got it, it's there. It's pinpointed.
Okay. I mean, imagine that maybe you yourself, you took Ancestry, and then I took Ancestry as well. And then we connected as cousin. I'm Bamileke. That means that you're Bamileke.
Okay. Make sure I understood you.
Okay. We both had Ancestry test done. Can you hear me? Hello?
I think he's having some connection issues.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah, you kind of broke up a little bit.
let me start again. We both had Ancestry test done. We both our result to JetMatch. And then we both connected through JetMatch. You know me, I'm a Bamileke. Obviously, that means that you are Bamileke as well. So going back to African Ancestry, they're going to tell you that we're Bamileke. So you understand?
Yes. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Then it wouldn't be necessary to take that particular test because JetMatch would already show who you were and the people that you connect to. Because if they're Bamileke people, those people will show up on that JetMatch test.
Okay.
You wouldn't have to do the African Ancestry test because it would already show up who you are.
Exactly. That will show what we are. Yeah.
Yes.
So will JetMatch show you people from the same country but different tribe? I don't know if anybody.
Yes, they will show you
from different tribes. So that's where the confusion can be, because if JetMatch show you cousin from maybe Bamileke, and then you find out that after speaking to them, you find out that the Bamileke. Other cousin found out that the maybe from the central part of Cameroon. Then you may need to do the African Ancestry, maybe to have a look at exactly where most of your DNA came from. That's what I believe, though, because I don't know if you guys understand.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes, I did. I understood what you were saying. You can't go ahead. Yeah, help yourself.
Okay, so I just want to clarify some things so people aren't confused. The regular ancestry test and MyHeritage, Family Tree, DNA, 23andMe, those are autosomal tests, and they test your overall DNA. African Ancestry tests one line. So let's say I connect with somebody from my ancestry test, and I have Igbo cousins, so that would make me Igbo. But my lineage test says that I'm Tikar. So that's the difference.
Okay.
Right.
So
she answered what I was getting ready to say. Yeah, thank you.
JetMatch, who's Bamileke, that doesn't mean that your African ancestry test will reflect that.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was breaking. Thank you, sister, because he was breaking up pretty bad, and I was trying to catch in between what he was saying. But I was going right where she was going. That's correct.
Yeah, exactly. So you still need to do African Ancestry because that's going to give you exactly what you say. That's
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I still think you should.
Okay. So Brother Justin just joined, so he's gonna take over as the second host. Brother Justin.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, family. I apologize for my camera being off.
Thanks. I'm still here. Just got a question.
No question. I just apologize for my camera being off, but I'm multitasking right now. I have a few questions for you, but I would rather let you finish first, and then I will come with my questions towards the end, Brother Jerry.
Okay. All right. Okay. Is any other questions on that? Just know it's important to do both tests. I think it's very important to do both. And Sister Vante just explained it that's where I was going with it. She said it just as well as I said. It's no need to repeat the same thing. So she said what needed to be said.
Actually, Brother Zeri, let me ask you this. On your African ancestry test, did it yield numerous tribes, numerous ethnic groups on your test, or did it give you one? For example, I just took the maternal test and it came back with Bamileke. So I'm just wondering, on yours, did it give you several ethnic groups or did it just give you one?
Okay, on mine, I took the maternal and paternal. That's another thing we need to talk about it too. On the maternal side, it came back with 2. On my paternal, it came back with 1. And the reason being that it came back 2 on my mother's side, which was the maternal, she was she was a female, of course, and it said on that particular test, 500 years ago, my grandmother was a Fulani and Yoruba woman. So they put Yoruba and Fulani on the test. And then on that, it broke it down into the haplogroups. They got several groups that they go down the list that they search out of. And that's how they compare you on the test. And then they give the percentile. On that test, also, it also takes you as far back as your mom's, your brother, my brother, their kids. It goes back several generations on those tests, on both of them.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Here's where we want to talk a little bit about some places where we can do some research. And some of this is going to be, mostly it'll be talking about here in the United States. Some of them will connect to the UK, Africa, but that research has to be done just a little bit different because their storing of things is different the way we do it in the US. Here's some places that we can research. Military records. Some people say they can't find things. They can't look for stuff. They don't know where to find their people. They cannot connect to none of the people. They go to the census and they'll look on the census and they'll find what they can find on the census. Cut that heat off. It's about to burn me up. They'll connect to the census and they'll look and they'll find all they can find there. And then they don't find anything else. And so this is as far as I can go. But there's more. If you had family members that was in the military, there's places you can look. Military records. You can Google those things. You look them up, you can find if they were in the military. Now, while you're looking on those military rolls, some of them especially if you were of African descent, you may not find all of them just listed through the military because we were not put on the federal census in the United States until 1870. So you have to go back and look at another roll. And you may find them on a roll called, you might want to write this down, called the muster roll. That's M-U-S-T-E-R, muster roll. Muster roll is a roll where they did keep people's names that were of African and white. They kept them on these rolls. And you may find your ancestors on that particular roll. So you may want to go back and look at the date, look at the year when they were in the military. I was fortunate that I was able to find two of my family members actually was in the Confederacy War on the South Side. I found their documents and I have their documents. Well, they were on there. So you can find them through that. And on that, when you look it up, you'll see where it says Department of Navy or the Department of Marines. Look under those departments and look inside that, and you should begin to scroll in and you can find some of that. Some of the muster rolls you also can find on Ancestry. Some of them are listed there as well. Another place where you can also look and find them is called Fold 3. That is on Ancestry. They have some military records there, and you may find some of the muster rolls on that roll. You look in there, you may can find some things there as well. And a lot of people don't realize this. here's another very, very important place to look. Looking at the church, the migration areas, where you people migrated at, where they lived when they came from Africa to the United States. Look at those migration places. See where they lived at, see where they stayed at. How long did they live there? How do you find that? You can go to your county. You knew what county that they lived in. They all have a county in the state. If you go to that county or call or go is the best thing to do. Go into that county. You can research it and you can find. And how do you find them? Look under land deeds. This is really important right here. Land deeds are very, very important, especially when you start getting back into the 17 and the 1800s. You want to look under land deeds because we were called many different names, many different races, many different colors during that time. So the plantation owner may have owned that property, and then you were called something else. You got the property wrote out to you, or it didn't get wrote out to you. We'll get into some more of that. It didn't get wrote out to you. You ended up being listed on that property as something being called maybe a mulatto or a free issue or a person of color, and maybe not exactly put your name on who you were. And there was reasons for that. Some of the reasons was that you may have still been indebted to the plantation owner. So he kept you working on the property. Owe him for the land. I remember within 30 minutes, not completely clear cut because he passed away before he ever got the land paid for. And then when he didn't get it paid, the son inherited the property, but there was another plantation owner that was involved with the property. So you got to look at all these things when you're starting to research. You might see a name listed under the plantation owner's name. Don't overlook that. Read that land deed, those old land deeds. A lot of them's got little seals that they put on them. They just draw little lines around them and then write seal in the middle of them. And then that you'll if it's anything in there where your family owned any property, it'll be listed there. You can find it. You can find that area where they were listed at. So pay close attention to that. Don't overlook that. Don't overlook if you see it. Well, that was a mulatto. See if you can find who that mulatto is. Might be one of your relatives. So don't just let it go and say, well, that don't pertain to me. This is when they designed all these names that they give us to mess us up, to keep us from finding. And there's a reason for that. One of the reasons, again, was to keep us from owning the property again. Some of the slaves, they went back and stayed back with the slave owner because it was good to them. Why? There was not enough people to farm the property. They take that 40 acres and a mule. So what did they do? They went back, right back to the slave master and stayed with him. Guess what? He illegally took that property. That's why it's important that you and I pay attention to land deeds. Look and see whose name owned those land deeds. Make sure that their name is not on that property. If it is, just to be honest with you, today, you and your family still own that property. And if you go back to court, you can probably get that property back because they went and took it in. These small plantations is good for that. That's another word you want to pay attention to. Slave owner. Anybody got a question?
Hello, Brother Jerry.
Slave owner. Yes.
Yes. So again, I'm going to say thank you. I'm just going to quickly share my screen to show you guys something. So
okay.
Belong. So while we talking, I decided to order my ancestry DNA, and I hope to get it probably before my birthday in January, and then we can probably share it on this stage. So that's what I just now. So because I'm looking
okay.
to find my cousin, you know, I'm gonna put that on JetMatch. Is it the one you put on JetMatch?
Yeah.
Yeah. While you was talking, I thought that, you know what, I just ordered that and I should have it anytime. So
Okay.
can you see that?
Yes, I see that.
Okay, so I put my order through and I should get
Yeah,
it.
that's correct.
When I get it, I'll call you and then you can guide me on how to do that and everything. And then
Yes, that's fine.
when I get the result, hopefully that I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna find all of you there.
I will do that for you, Brother Mark.
Okay, that's all. That's all I wanted to say. I wanted to share.
Okay.
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 Well,
Yeah, I'll be glad to do that.
all right, thank you. I'll let you get on.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I also want to make sure that if you're in the Caribbean, if you're in any parts of the United States, you have access to those tests. It's not just the test that people can just only get them in the United States of America. You can get them tested anywhere and they will send those tests to you.
Yeah.
They're available.
So I'm waiting for that, and I need all of you. I need your guy to go through that, and then when
Okay. All right.
hopefully
Okay, I will do that.
hopefully I'm still gonna be Cameroonian. If it's not, I'm gonna have to leave the group.
I can say I'm sorry.
hopefully I'm still Cameroonian.
Okay. I think
After
you should be fine.
Yeah, after that, I'm gonna do the African ancestry. I just want to, because that is more important to me, you know, because I already know who I am, so I want to know who is connected to me. So that's why I
Yes.
that one first, and then if I want to check it to compare if I'm really Cameroonian, then I'm gonna go for the second one.
Yeah, and we got to remember
Right.
those,
Okay. All right.
those borders, the Berlin Conference, those borders.
What'd you say, Sister Vante?
I said we have to keep in mind those borders that they
Yes,
created
Yep,
with the
exactly.
Conference.
It's true. Administrative borders, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Very important thing she brought up right there, because some of my people on the Kisana side are actually in Ghana, but the bulk of them up in the middle part where the Kisana people are, which did put another part of the tribe that are fossil. They sit right on the border, just like Sister Vante said. That's something you do need to.
it's true. It's true. Yeah. I mean, because there's a lot of, I mean, there's a border between Burkina Faso and Ghana, so that probably explains on that side.
Border.
And then the Igbo and the southwest southwest part of Cameroon as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another reason too why some people come back with multiple results from African ancestries, because of the borders.
Okay.
And because before the borders, it was, you know, kingdoms, and these people were part of one kingdom.
Okay.
But when they created the borders, they kind of, you know, split them up. So now, you know, it could be, you know, Guinea-Bissau, and then I'm also something from Sierra Leone or Liberia or something like that.
Okay. So that's what African ancestry use present day Cameroon,
Present day.
present day Nigeria, because
Right.
at that time it wasn't really Cameroon, it wasn't Nigeria. It was, we don't know what was there.
Right.
Okay, I see. We got brother Michael got a question.
I don't have a question. I just want to add on to the understanding of the DNA tests, like the African ancestry test that tests a particular line that goes back to a Pacific tribe. That is really only testing one person on your genetic line, not like, let's say you testing your maternal line, and your maternal line comes back Bamileke. That is not to say that all of your ancestors on your mother's side is Bamileke.
Absolutely.
Yes, that is one person
Exactly.
in their database. Yes, you know. So when you take the ancestry test, and you get other regions like Nigeria, Cameroon, Congo, you have to really look and understand the regions that they have. Because when you click on the regions, you see that it's more than just Cameroon. Like you could, let's say you have a high percentage of Cameroon, Congo. Let's say you have 40%. That doesn't mean that you're 40% Cameroonian, because
Right.
Cameroon, Congo is a region that goes into Gabon. It goes
Exactly.
into
Angola.
into
Angola.
Angola, into other countries.
Yeah.
Democratic Republic of Congo, the Republic of Congo, all of that is included in
Absolutely.
Cameroon, Congo.
Exactly.
So a lot of people will say, "Hey, my test came back, mostly Cameroon, came back Cameroon, Congo," and think that their ancestors came from Cameroon, where it could be, you could have ancestry in anywhere in that region.
Exactly.
Even Ivory Coast, Ghana. If you look at the region, it goes into Liberia, it goes into Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that has to be understood as well. And even that result from African ancestry is less than 2% of your DNA. So when you're looking at Ancestry.com, the results from Ancestry.com and 23andMe, that gives you a better picture of where your ancestors may have come from prior to the transatlantic slave trade, because
Exactly.
the results from African ancestry is going really beyond the transatlantic trade. That DNA is going back up to maybe 2,000 years, and that result is talking about basically ancient ancestry, not which ancestor was taken during the transatlantic human trade.
Exactly.
Yes.
That means what they were when they were there. That's exactly what the people were. And that's what I was explaining a while ago. He's correct.
Yes. So I just wanted to add on to it to bring more contribute to the understanding of it,
Yes.
I'm glad the brother Vincent took the test, because we need more people on the continent to test so that we can find our actual relatives over there on the continent. I manage quite a few kits myself, so if he's not available, you could always reach out to me. I have a very good understanding of the DNA test and the genealogy, and I have I don't know if you got to it yet or you was planning to get to it. Familysearch.org.
Okay.
You can do the same type of genetic family research as Ancestry DNA without paying the membership for searching the database. Familysearch.org, you can search that for free, and you can find relatives in the Caribbean. You can find them all over the United States. You have access to pretty much, I'm not going to say the same database, but you have access to a lot for free.
The Mormons.
My ancestors weren't born in the United States. Both parents were born in Jamaica, West Indies, and I used Familysearch.org to find genealogical records in Jamaica for free, and I was able to add on to my family tree using Familysearch.org. Another thing too is, like, when you get the membership with Ancestry DNA, they often offer free access to it for a short period of time, and I just would like to suggest that you take advantage when they do offer that. If they offer you 3 months free or whatever, get on there and get busy with your research. And then if you feel like you can't afford it and you want to cancel it, you can just cancel it before that time period is up.
Bill you.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to share.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
brother. Good information.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you were going exactly where I was going, and I was going to bring up Family Search. The only thing I run into with Family Search, with my own research, you have to be careful about, and you got to do that with any of them, is they had some of my family members connected to the wrong grandfather. And I got to call them now, and I've made copies of it to get that straightened out, because I have the documents and the DNA test and everything to straighten that out, because my third great grandfather, he was married to another woman in the area, in another area, before he moved to where he is now. So they put him down with the children, and when they had no children. Those children are not even where Family Search was saying they were. They're on the historical site where my family's already buried at, some of them, and some of them's buried at the church. So I got to go back and get all that straightened out. But most of their stuff I've found to be okay. But you're going to find the flaws in it.
You know what, too? You're going to run into the problems with Familysearch.org and even Ancestry's database. You have many people out there born in the same time period with the same names.
Yep.
So, sometimes you have to really look at it and investigate to make sure you're looking at the right person, that you're really looking at an ancestor. Because you could be looking at somebody with the same name, born in the same time period.
Exactly. And be confusing about that is what their race could be. I was going to get into some of that. We'll just go ahead and talk about that now. How they may be listed. Like on some of the census records, my wife was listed on one of them as being European. Her sister's listed on there the same way. Listed on the same census, but she was listed as being Black. Same father, same mother, same biological parents. How did that happen? It goes back to some of when we started researching. That's why I agree with the brother said. You have to go back and you got to start looking and seeing what was your mother called? What was the father called? And as we researched and we went back, we couldn't find where they wanted to give her a race of what she was. So they just put something down, which gets into something else in the United States, which would have been called laws of assumptions. In the United States, they don't call them, they assume what you look like. And by what you look like, that's what they called you. You could have been different colors in your home, but one could have been mulatto, one could have been Black, one could have been a Negro, whichever. They just assume by what you look like, and that's what you would be called. Sometimes we put it down, and sometimes it was like he was saying undecided. They didn't know what to put down who she was. And there was a reason for all that. There was European DNA there, which made it what really wasn't confusing. They knew, but they didn't want to put it down because white people like to write themselves out of our history. They do not want us to know.
Sometimes you'd even see words like quadroon.
Exactly.
Ain't nothing but a mixed race person.
Exactly. Or octoroon. And you go to Howard University, you got all those rooms up in that Howard University, given names of people. You can look that up. Those are, like he said, different people. And some of them don't only tie, because I actually have a cousin who is octoroon who has some Chinese DNA. So those are some of the other places you have to look. Here's another place you got to look. Before I go to this one, I want to do this one. Interviews. Interviews are very, very important, especially from the elderly. A lot of us don't take this seriously until either time's lapsed, people are gone, something's happened, or the people has passed or whatever, or they get sick, they had a stroke, not able to speak, talk. It's very important to get interviews. And I like to suggest when you do your interviews, get it where you can tape it in some kind of way, archive that information so you can always go back to it and refer to it. I was blessed that one side of my family had done that. Now I have copies of all that information, and I get to hear their voices, even though they were past and gone and I never seen them, never got to know them. But I hear them conducting different things, carrying out different businesses, different adventures, and how they became to be a part of the historical farm. I have that information with them talking. Even they were talking one time, I'll share this much with you about it, where they was doing things about coming up with how they had come in and inherited some money, and they wanted to distribute their money out to the HBCU colleges. That's what they did with some of their money. They had a meeting and they come together and decided. I listened to the meeting that they had over that. These are things that's very important. So interviews are very, very important. Don't let the elderly get gone. And then when we have that information, if we have a family reunion, you go to that reunion. I'm getting a little bit away from this, but it actually is still a part of this. In 2019, when I started doing my research, I didn't know who my dad's side of the family was, other than my great grandmother when she passed. And when I started researching, I found them. So now I'm writing a book. And the name of the book is dealing with the Sawyer and the Ward family, the lost and the found. I thought I found. But in 2019, after being on the board, my family, that's why it's important to keep this information. So we did. So people came in all over the United States. And we had, just right before COVID hit, we got to have a family reunion, and I got to meet the rest of my family on a historical site. Out of that, that was the only reunion that they had had in 23 years. So you never know what you're going to create out of something until you get yourself involved in something and start being a part of it and start making moves. All it takes is somebody that will step up and decide that they want to be the head, if you want to say so, and say, you know, we need to do this. We need to pull this together. We're losing our history. We're losing our heritage. We're losing everything. That's another thing that it's important that we should never, never, ever, if someone of our family members die, one of the first things we want to do is get rid of all the stuff that they got. I wouldn't do that. I got things that I have found when you research that goes back to a museum that we had some stuff in. You may have things in a museum yourself, some of your family members. I went back to the museum and they gifted some of the stuff back to me. Out of that, I'm sure, and I'm telling you this by because of what you can find, what it can lead to. When I did that, it led us back to a cabin, and the cabin is still standing. Out of that cabin, we did research out of it. We found my wife and I both have ancestors that came out of the same cabin. She had a great uncle that married my great aunt, and we didn't know it. They got the cabin is still there. Out of that, now we have petitioned the state to move the cabin to the historical site because my family owned a part of the property there, and they had a cabin there. The cabin's gone, so we're going to use that as a monument. So the museum then gave me some of the inheritance to me, and we'll be putting it back into the cabin when we get it moved. So that's why I say it's important that you do those interviews, you do your research. Hang on, I don't care if it's nothing but a pair of glasses. I'm asking my family members now, if you got something that you would like to part with, so I can archive it, put it in the will, and make sure it goes where it needs to go. So if I pass before it gets there, that it will go to its rightful place. So our history will never be forgotten. So when your children, their children, your great-great-grandchildren, and on, can have a place to go back and find themselves and find out where they come from. So it's very important to do that, I think. So interview is something very important. Newspaper clippings is another place. Looking at newspaper, old newspapers, You look at that. You can some fold through another part. It depends out, which one's like $49.99. I think the other one's like $39. When you get a portion of one of those, and you can get in that, and you can find newspaper clippings there. Doing so, you can find it. I also found some old clippings without having to go do that. I was fortunate, had some information, led me to where I'm getting ready to get where we came off of a plantation there in the area where we come from. Migration is another. Knowing where your people migrated to, knowing that area, getting back to the churches. Churches has a lot of information. Your church rolls. It even has a lot of times nationalities of the races of the people who they were, especially with the AME Zion Church. The AME Zion Church was one of the first founders of starting the African American people to having a church. And in that, because Africans were not allowed to leave any information, because a lot of times the slave master would come to that church and he would sit in the church with them. And he would sit there and make sure that they preached what he wanted to be preached. And if he didn't, they would pull him out and put him back into slavery. So his family would come and visit the church from time to time. So it's important to know that your AME church has a lot of data and a lot of information. Out of some of that, we all know that stands for African Methodist Episcopal Church. Where did that African Methodist? It's a part out of the Methodist Church. That's why, but they just gave it to the Africans. That was the only church that they would allow them to go to, was an African church. Any questions there before I go ahead?
No, well, maybe one question, Brother Zeri, but if I may, can I add a comment as well about what you said about the interviews? So in doing some research of my own, I found that if you go to your county of residence, and you can usually find the last will and testaments, historical last will and testaments. And so I was doing it wrong at first. I was looking for slave, or slave owner, but those yielded no results. So I've learned that if you type in Negro or Negress and you search those last will and testaments, now you yield results. And through that, I found individuals who owned, I found human traffickers, because that's what they are. I found human traffickers who held my ancestors potentially in hostage, who had the same last name as me, such as, Mills or Kitchens or Neal and such and so forth. Now, my county's small, so I can only speculate if these people actually owned my ancestors, but I think you can make a good argument that they did. So I would say that the last will and testaments, and also the Library of Congress published in the 1930s, 1940s, it was a federal writers project during the Great Depression. The government created jobs for white people to make money. And so they went down and they interviewed, the formerly enslaved people across the southern United States and other parts of the US. So they break those interviews down by state. So I think that if you're fortunate enough, your county may be on those lists of interviews, and you can see people who did suffer human trafficking, and they can tell their story in that way. So I just wanted to add those two things: last will and testaments, and the Library of Congress. They call it slave narratives. But one more thing, because I've been writing notes and taking things down, writing my thoughts down. You said the interviews with the elderly, and we should pay attention to what they say. Now, this is something that maybe we can wait till the end, because I really want to get into it, right? A lot of my relatives say things such as like, oh, my great grandmother was, she was Cherokee, or my great grandmother was Creek, or this and that. And so a lot of people say that, right? And so
we're gonna go there.
You mentioned the muster roll. That made me think about the so-called Dawes roll or the Freedman's roll. So I'll pause on that. And since that's on your list, we can talk about that later. I just wanted to flag that for you. And I'll add more when after you cover that. So that's it for now. I have a lot of questions. So
very important.
But that's it for now.
Yeah. That's a very important point. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that really needs to be discussed, because we'll talk about it when we get further down. Yeah, very important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Justin, something I want to mention to you too. You probably wouldn't. Well, you probably thought you were searching wrong, because South Carolina has, and I know you're in South Carolina, has some of the best well-kept records that you can find anywhere. Something you might want to pay attention to look at as well. And since you brought it up, I'll go ahead and bring it up because I had it in my notes. Look under, and this is for any of us, look under the word also. And sometimes the courthouses don't know this by this name. But I would think South Carolina would. Look up the word manumission when you go there. You ever heard of manumission?
It's like manumission. They set them free. Basically, yes. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah.
Yes.
Freedom papers.
Yes.
They can find back women on slave.
Yeah, I was going. Yeah, I am. Yeah, thank you. Manumission is a word that where they were wrote out of slavery. It's what it basically boils down to. And some of this stuff is recorded in these courthouses. You can find it there if you just go look or ask them. The courthouse where we were at didn't know much about what manumission was. So I had to explain to them what it was. So don't be surprised if they don't know, or they say they don't know and do know.
South Carolina should know.
But South Carolina should know, because they got buku records better than anybody. Mm-hmm. And since we're on that subject, most people don't know this. Since I'm in North Carolina, and South Carolina at one time was nothing but one state. It changed in 1729. I don't know if you was aware of that or not.
I was a little, I haven't dug that much into that history, but same with Georgia. I'm from Georgia, so I was searching Georgia records, but I know that a lot of people were brought in from South Carolina to Georgia, and it was all one landmass. So that's where it gets tricky. But I wrote down the manumission. I'm going to check that out as well. That never even crossed my mind to think about that. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Another one you want to look up, since we're on that same subject, is a yeoman. That's farmer who owned property. That's Y-O-E-M-A-N, yeoman.
Got it. Thank you.
You want to look? All right, you're welcome. You want to look those up. Everybody write those down. Those are important words that you want to look. Here's another one that you want to look also, since we're on that subject. Women. Yes, that's correct. Yeoman, Y-O-E-M-A-N. Yes. Women. Most people start looking for women when they come here through slavery. They look for them just straight up on like the slave ships, like the African men came. You won't necessarily find them that way. Women were listed, and you want to write this down, they were listed as cargo. So you want to look for them on a cargo ship, not on the regular slaves. Yep. Women listed as cargo. That's correct. You want to look under that. Look under cargo. Also, you want to look for them under the name called chattel. Chattels. Chattels means they was being referred to as cattle. That's C-H-A-T-T-L-E. Yes, chattel. You want to look for ancestors under those names. You'll find stuff under them as well. Even with the name cowboy. Us men, African men, they took cowboy and made gun smoke and all that out of it. That cowboy actually was referring to us as African Americans. Look at the Buffalo Soldiers. Yep, exactly. So you want to pay attention to that. Look at those things when you see that. That was not who they made them out to be. They took a lot of titles from us and made it be their own. Any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll move. Go ahead, Brother Malcolm.
I know I'm good. No question.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I'm just taking notes.
All right. Okay. Here's another place you want to do some research. The archives. Mm-hmm. The archives in your state, in your county. Where do you look at that at? every government has a head, has a capital. You go to that capital and go, some of them maybe be beside them, but they have an archive building where they archive information. You can go there and you can find information in the archives of those places in your state. You actually can find some of it in the county, which would have been the courthouse. We talked about that. Land deeds, records. You want to look at those places as well. You want to look for that in the state. Churches. We talked a little bit about churches. Here's something that most people don't think of. Back during the time of slavery, we had just that one particular church that we could go to. I mean, there was others that we went, but most of them was the AME church. My family was AME. And there's differences in the way the AME churches were, even from the north to the south. There's a little difference there. Some of those churches, you want to look for the word musty. And that musty word, that's M-U-S-T-E-E. That was referring to Native American people that were in there. You are not allowed to go. That's correct. You are not allowed to go to a white church. You had to go to your own. So they created these churches. And then when they created these churches, they began to rewrite the Bible. And this Bible used to be up in a university in Tennessee about a year ago. And I don't have that information, but my computer crashed and I lost it and I got to find it again. But that Bible was displayed and it made the national news, where they had changed the headings on some of the Bible. And they were making it, using the word master against us in slavery, and made us stay under slavery. And they was using it like we were masters, like they were our masters. We were supposed to honor them. They changed biblical words in the Bible, and that Bible was on display where they used that Bible. There was one found where they used to do that. That's another thing you want to pay attention to. Maps. We want to look at old maps to start finding us. You're not going to find it on today's map. I think Sister Avante brought some of that out a few minutes ago. To find us, we have to go back to old maps to start finding us. Because when you go back, you're going to find even some of the ocean that we see, like today is called the Atlantic Ocean. Back in the early 1700s, that was not the Atlantic Ocean. I have the old map. It was called the West Indies. And it went all the way from Boston all the way down to the Caribbean. It was nothing but the West Indies. So now this begins to say, oh, I see now why Christopher Columbus said what he said. And that's why he called the people when he got here, these people looked like the West Indies. And that became the West Indies. That's why it was what it was. And out of that, that's where a lot of the Southeast Asia people come in. And a lot of them were dropped off in North Carolina. They were trying to first let them off out in Wilmington, North Carolina. There's a little island out there. Excuse me. There's a little island out there. They were trying to do it out there, but the water was too swift. So instead of letting them off there, they started taking them on down to Charleston. And then they migrated back out. See, I came off of a rice plantation. And that plantation owner today I still have his last name. That's something else we got to pay attention to. Common last names. See, if you stop and think, we have a common last name here in America. That's not who we are. Because when you start researching and go back, you're going to start finding Indian names. You're going to start finding African names of people that you and I attached to. And then you begin to see how they changed our names out and gave us something else. And then when they gave us other names like Ward, Jones, Franklin, whatever, they give Robinson, and then they did all these different names. And just to give you an example of what happened with me, I have a third generation grandfather who is white, who was a slave owner. His last name was Warden. But my last name is Ward. You see what he did? He added EN on the last of the Ward name. What did that do? it then made it difficult for me to be able to find my great-grandfather. I found his death certificate, but I'm struggling now to find who all he connects to. But I've just about found it. Got to keep digging, got to keep hunting, got to keep searching. So you can see names are very important. If you see something that's changed the last name, do not overlook that. If it's spelled different and if it's 2 letters off, that may be created by design to keep you and I from finding who we come from. And you could be related to them. And don't be surprised, some of them are going to be European. Some of them's going to be Asian, whatever. Any questions to that? So maps is very important. Go back and look at old maps. And when you see the old maps, even I forgot the year and date on it. I don't have that in front of me. Gosh, I forgot that. Even Africa at one time was called Upper Ethiopia and Lower Ethiopia. It's not what it was called today. Out of that, it was pretty much nothing but Mali. Nigeria was never Nigeria until 1952. The British turned it loose and gave it back to them. Then they called themselves the Nigerian people. Census records. Here's something that you really want to pay a close attention to. Census records. When you're looking at census records, you want to make sure that you read everything on those census records. Don't just go up there and read and see the name like the brother was talking about. He didn't say that, but was talking, because it's important that you have same name, but you can validate that that's who you are and that's your ancestor. And the way you can do that, if you look on out on that federal census, you can see other information. You can see who the preacher was. You can see, some of them will tell about what their occupation was. Say what they was a slave plantation, whatever. This helps validate your information. Because like he said, you may have the same name, and then you look on out there, and you might see that person might have been of a different ethnicity, but it didn't fit who you were, same date, same year. That's why DNA testing is so important. That validates who you are. And doing that, this is up to the individual. I haven't done this, but if you man, a woman, boy, whoever wanted to, you actually can have bodies exhumed as a fee for that. If you're not sure and not satisfied with your ancestor, who it was, you can go have them exhumed and pull the DNA from them, just to be even more validated to your information. It's just another way. Graveyards. Well, let me back up to the churches. I want to say something else about the churches. If you go back into the history in North Carolina, South Carolina, especially the South, we weren't allowed to read or write. We weren't allowed to have information. We had to keep that to ourselves. And we got caught with it, was either beat or killed. So what happened? In those churches, a lot of our ancestors, if we'll go look under some of them old benches in the church, if you go out there and look on some of them trees on the church, you'll find where there's information been left about you. That's another place to research yourself. So just want to make you aware of that. Don't pass over it. Go to that old church. Go out there and look and see what's out there. Turn them benches over. Look and see what information was left. They left information behind. Just got to go look. Getting back again to the census records, I also wanted to mention to you, look at some of those census records you can have where there's information on old Bibles. And because you can't find other information, that information on those Bibles is what's called an affidavit, which means the person that brought that information in made that documentation legal. You can use that information to validate your family. Just want to make that clear. Any questions? Just also remember, watch out for words Words mean a lot. Give you an example. When I was doing some of my research, I found that my family was being called one thing, Native American, then it was another. Look at the words, and the documentation was showing them that they were writing it up to be legit. But when the family done the DNA testing, it didn't pan out right. So you want to watch words like country, county. You got to pay attention to words that say, well, my mom and daddy said that we were this, but never could prove it. And some people will still write things up and say, well, you're Native American or you're of another tribe or whatever. And it won't be validated. Because if you validate something, you can go find your people. If you can validate, you should be able to go straight to where your family is. You should be able to go right to them. That will validate you. You can take your information, go straight. This is my people right here. That's important. Here's another one that gets us in trouble. We want to talk a little bit about black. Black is nothing to me but a social construct word that leads none of us in America to nowhere. Because all it does is gives us a color, but it does not give us a race. This is important. Negro, same thing. That was a slave name out of South Carolina that they gave to us to write us out of our ethnicity. That was created by design. We were not Negroes. We were not colored. Colored, they just gave it by because of the law, what we looked like, what they thought that we were. And then they made a law to that and said, this is who you are. And we had to accept that. Black, colored, Negro, free people of color, mixed blood. What is all that? How can we be all that? Where did that come from? It all came from stall breeding. That's why when you see these barns being built, they would put in their stalls. They would take an animal and put them in a stall. Ain't that what they looked at us like? They would put them in there. And the girls, they would put them in there and breed them out for their stock purposes, to keep their stock up, to make money. And they would breed us. And that's why we also have ties, like my wife has 4 different tribes. And then including with the borders, because some of it does relate to the border. We have that. It came from stall breeding, slave breeding. We need to understand that. That's why it's so important that we just don't anymore just sit back and say, well, you know, I'm black. I don't go with that anymore. Because it leads me nowhere. It might take me to my mom's house because the United States has accepted that. I don't anymore. I didn't even put that down on the census this time. I changed all that because that's not who I am. And all it does is keep us hid. It keeps us not being able to find ourselves. And then when we go do our research, we start looking under the word black and it don't take us nowhere other than the census. We'll see where they put black. And if you do see that on your census, look at a lot of, you'll see black, you'll see Negro, you might see mixed, but I have all this, mulatto. You'll see all those different names when you start looking back. That's why you got to go back to old maps. When you go back, you'll start seeing those type names. When you see Negro, you can rest assured your family came out of slavery. Remember that. Because that was what they used to write us out when we come to America and being enslaved. The Southeast Asia people, they did the same thing. When we came down some of them came down out of Africa, brought to the Caribbean, from the Caribbean to here, they changed their name. If anybody's from the Caribbean, they can tell you, they will have heard this name called Coolies. Coolies is nothing but a Southeast Asia person from Africa. They were Southeast Asia, straight from India. Some of them are India people. That's what they were. And the Emancipation Act out of the British colonial law tried to tell the Americans when they started bringing them here, loads and tons and hundreds of us they brought here and dropped them, a lot of them off in North Carolina. We're Southeast Asia people. But they wanted to claim them to be Negroes. They said they were going to be Negroes. No, I have that act. That I don't have a thing to show all this. I don't have it to bring it up. I got that information out of the British archives, showing where they were saying what we really were called. They didn't listen. White people here did not listen. They started doing what they wanted to be doing, did it their way. So these are just things that I have found doing some of my research that takes us away from us ever trying to find ourselves. So we should pay attention to that, not let that go. Another place you want to look. Then we're going to get into some of what Brother Justin was talking about. Bureau of Indian Affairs. If you have any native or claim to have native, you can look under that. Look it up. But that can be a tricky thing. Let me back up. I also, through my JED match, led me to show all of the pie chart that I did have South Indian. It was that. Now get back to the Native American part. This can be tricky. Most people want to claim Cherokee, and I'm not here to hurt no one's feelings. I'm just here to give it from a historical perspective. The people that I've dealt with the native people, that I have direct information from. And if anybody still wants to be whatever you want to be, I'm good with that. I'm just to give out information. So I just want to make myself clear here. But you got to really be careful with that. The reason being, they accept who they want and how they want. Plus, if you didn't get on roll at a certain time, even if you were full-blooded native, today you can't get on that. I know the sister right now that's fighting for the Indians that are more Indian than some people say they are, that's not, to get them on roll. She's working to get it out there, to try to get them back where they're supposed to be. Because they was afraid to take, when the roll was offered, that Dawes roll, they was offered to do it, they was afraid to get on there because they was afraid of the government. They didn't know if they was going to come and take them, do something with them, so they wouldn't get on it. So now that they saw that it was okay, now they won't do it. A lot of people holler. I live 2 hours away from Cherokee Reservation. A lot of people holler Cherokee, 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 Cherokee. They might be looking in the wrong place. You might want to go back and look and see if you don't have some Southeast Asia. That's why I gave you the data on how many people that were Southeast Asia that were dropped off in North Carolina. It's important. Very, very important to pay attention to that. You may be, while you can't find who you're looking for, you may be looking in the wrong place. So when it comes to the way they do it, it's kind of tricky. They accept who they want, and they don't. If they don't, they won't. And their testing is not what we do. It's whatever they want. It's pretty much the way they do it. Yeah. And there's a lot more I know about that they are trying to create out of what they say they are. And I have their information because they have white as well. They actually do not want to have African Americans a part of it. They can't do it anymore, but they don't like it. I've known people, it took them 15 years just to finally get on roll with them. And they do everything they can to try to discourage that. Justin, you got any questions before I go any further?
I have a couple questions. Can you hear me? Because I have my microphone turned on now. Okay. A couple questions and a couple comments on that. The people who look like me, complexion look like me, right?
Yeah.
Who claim that the Cherokee ancestry, I don't necessarily discredit it, but I just want to say take it with a grain of salt, because know that the Cherokee and at a certain point in time, the Muskogee, aka the Creek, they were teaming up with the white people, the white government, and the Cherokee owned slaves. What's the estimate? Like 4,000 victims of human trafficking were on the Trail of Tears. They were on the Trail of Tears as their property, right? So they owned. And in my research, I'm seeing that even the chiefs were doing the same thing that their role models, the white people, right? They were doing the same things that they were doing. They were raping our women. And so look into their constitutions. Look into the Cherokee constitutions and the Creek constitutions written in like the 1840s, 1850s, and search keyword Negro, and you will see how it says that no person with Negro blood or ever have any ownership, any offices of power, such and so forth. But these people have been with these tribes for years. Yeah. So I've been reading this book, right? It's called Black Seminole. It's called Black Seminole, right? And it's basically talking about how the people who were enslaved fled to Florida. They were Maroons. Just like we know about the Jamaican Maroons and such and so forth, but less people know about the American Maroons. But people fled to Florida and they lived amongst the Seminoles, right? And the Seminoles the Seminoles who were Creeks, but they broke off. They also owned African American. That's the antiquated term now, but they own black people or slaves. I hate using that word, but they own slaves, right? And so the difference is it was much different than how up in Georgia and South Carolina and Mississippi, Louisiana, how the slavery was. I'm learning that the black people with the Seminoles lived in separate villages. They carried guns. They carried guns. It was more like a feudalism in a way, but it wasn't like so-called chattel slavery. But in ways like that, yes, there are people who can have Native American ancestry. I can understand that, but I just think that the root of the problem is the sad reality is a lot of them teamed up with our oppressors and tried to oppress us, and then they teamed up like the Cherokee were in the Upper Creek or the Lower Creek. They were fighting the Seminoles who were Creeks as well, trying to round them up, such and so forth. So it gets tricky, right? And then if you can, after all of that, trace your Native American ancestry, whatever, like you said, now you have to get on the rolls, right? The Dawes roll or the Freedmen's roll. And in recent times now, people have been suing for years trying to get back on that roll. And it's like, what's the issue when you have people like I was seeing this one lady in Canada? She just got busted for she was false claiming Native American ancestry. She received all these grants and educational benefits, and it came out she's straight European. You see, so I just wanted to make that comment on that because I said it because there's a lot of people who speak now and they say things like, well, I'm not African, such and so forth. We were already here. Fact, we were already here. We did travel here, but at the same time, we can't discredit the pain and the suffering of our ancestors who made their voyage over here. And also in South Carolina, the Yuchi people, it's a tribe called the Yuchi. Their chief looks just like you, Brother Jerry. He looks just like you.
Oh, yeah.
He literally looks just like you, right? The Yuchi. You look it up. It's Y-U-C-H-I, the Yuchi. And then look at the historical portrayals of them. They're dark like me, right? Yeah. So I just wanted to make that comment on there for the people who, my question to you is for the people who are adamant that they're not African, they are in fact Native American. How can they find how can they conduct research to confirm this? What advice do you have to them? Because I'm sure it's people who are going to watch this when it's on YouTube and they're going to make the argument, I'm not African, we were already here, such and so forth. How can I confirm my Native American heritage?
Well, the best way I can answer that is they need to first do the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Go look at that. And then you might even find somewhere some of them were, the Indian War. I'm trying to think what you call it. I see it in my head. Oh, gosh. Bureau of Indian Wars. That's it. Yeah. You want to look back. Plus, if you can get connected with somebody that is of the particular tribe that you come from that will take your information, they can take that and research that for you and make that potentially happen. But again, they have to remember, even though the federal government has made it a law now that they can't use some of the stuff they used to use, like the 1-drop rule, and you can't be. I think they've kicked them out from saying they can't do that anymore. If you're part of it. And that 1-drop rule came from Africans when they started that anyway. But anyhow, if you can get with somebody that can do that, they can help you research that and find that. But right now, I know out in Oklahoma, there are a lot of whites that are on roll out there. They're trying to get them to turn their cards in. How did that happen? It came when the federal government during the colonial time made law that they went and looked at this geographical area here, and there was a lot of Indians in that area. They just made everybody Indian, and they issued them a card. Now they're trying to correct all that, and they're trying to get them to turn their cards in, and some of them don't want to do it. So it's a very tricky, finicky thing with them, and it's just not that simple because they still accept what they want, and then depending on what kind of connection you have with them is what kind of card you may get, which gives you maybe just one card might give you voting privileges, but you don't get any of the access of the money and things like that. It just depends how they look at it and what credentials you have. It's hard.
Thank you for that.
Your question.
You did. And my final thoughts on that is just when we're talking about the suffering and the wrongdoings and all of that, let us acknowledge our African ancestors who were enslaved by these said Native Americans who traveled when they were forcefully removed, who had to travel with them. And, it happened. So let's not sweep that under the rug. So that's my final thoughts on that for those who are adamant on claiming that part of instead of the African heritage. Exactly.
And I need them to understand also with that. It's taken one sister that I know that's in Oklahoma that I speak with every now and then now. It took her 15 years to get on roll. And she connected to the principal chief, John Ross. She was denied that many times. John Ross was the principal chief out of the Eastern Band of Cherokee that was on the Trail of Tears when he sent his wife out first. Then he went out. But when you research him, you're going to find that he got a whole lot of European. Then you see what the ancestor looked like that I see. You're going to see a lot more European, which now the Indians are trying to make them look more white when the Indian looks more like mine and your complexion.
Exactly.
The true Indians does.
Yep.
Exactly.
I can show you picture after picture after picture after picture. They were dark complected, and why and how that got that way. They were already coming here, and they were already traveling, and they were already coagulating before Christopher Columbus even knew anything about it. Already been happening. So it's just stuff we just got to accept and deal with. Yeah, and like I said, they don't do DNA. They don't do it like the way we do it. They don't accept that like the way we do. So, and then when you do see somebody, I want to make this clear too. When you do see somebody that's listed, they'll see it a lot of times on an African ancestry test. They'll see it there. You better research that closely because it very potentially could tie you to a white slave owner because it may be they got on roll because it was the white people allowed them to be a part of the ancestry and they claim Native American. Then you go to that roll and you see your name on it. Yeah, I'm Native American, but you didn't go do a DNA test and it comes back something else. That happened to me. I have a third grand uncle listed on the Creek roll number and everything. His wife is listed as a mulatto He's listed as Indian, who is my biological third grandfather, and the children are listed as mulatto. How did they get all three? See, some of this stuff was done and was classified by the state that you lived in, is how they classified you. You could actually be on some of them's reservations and step foot off the reservation and not be an Indian, and you go off the reservation, you could be called of another nationality. Some of that even happened in South Carolina. So it's a tricky thing. It's a lot to learn to know about that. It's hard to give a one direct answer to that because of the way they do things. And I've dealt with them for years.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So I still say you have a lot of African. Embrace that. Take that. Let me say another thing to that. You find some Native Americans who have sickle cell, right? You find some white people have sickle cell. That's supposed to be an African trait. How did they get it? And if you're going to be Native American.
That's a great point and great question. And I think it just shows the evidence of the so-called civilized tribes, how they wanted to so bad assimilate into the white plantation culture, so that's a great point that you made.
Yeah. Something, that's why I say when you do this research, that hold on just a minute. What the heck is that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm back with you.
Are those dogs?
These are dogs. I didn't know what that was.
Me.
But anyway, sorry about that. But anyway, those are things you have to pay attention to, especially out of the South. Here's another thing that people miss. You have to pay attention to this is kind of getting off the subject of the Native American part, but not really. People have a tendency to move when they moved out of the South, when they started being allowed to leave in the 1800s and go wherever they wanted to live. They thought when they moved out west, whatever, they was getting away from their ancestors. Because a lot of people here in the South don't know it, but they've married a lot of their own relatives and didn't know it. You're looking at two right here. We have the same grandparents and did not know this until we started doing this research. We had not a clue. How did that happen? He was a slave owner. There's a difference in being a slave owner and being a slave master. Some of the plantations here were very small. And he owned slaves. What he did, he owned our families, who was white. He owned us to keep us from going back into slavery because the plantations were very small here. They weren't as big because it was more mountainous area here. So he kept us. Then he had a son who married, who is a grandfather again to my wife and I, until we found all this. He was then married either to an African-American woman, and then we did, that man married into the African side of the family, which made all them our relatives. And then we found the graveyard. We found the cabin that we both come out of. All that tied up and it come together. So there are more people. So don't think when you move out west, you moved up north. I've helped people that was up north. He was a small that had something to do with Fort Sumter, South Carolina. I helped her find one of her ancestors through a program that came on. I'm trying to think of his name on CNN. The black guy. What is his name? He's got a funny name. He's Gullah.
I can't remember.
But I found it. I was listening to it and I sent her the documentation and the information, and that was one of her relatives. And she lived up north. See, we think when we move away, we get away from here, that we've gotten away from our ancestors, that we can marry who we want. Okay, not necessarily so. Go trace your history and see most people, even in California, have connections right back to North and South Carolina and Virginia. Those were the big slave depots.
I think they may be looking at it as well as like, if for an example, say that if I have a great great grandmother who was born in I'll just say Scotland, right? So I said I have my DNA test to prove it. My great grandmother's from Scotland. I'm Scottish. That's how I'm saying I'm Scottish. The Native Americans are the Cherokee are looking at it like that, saying you can't prove Cherokee ancestry by DNA because because you may have had somebody who was supposedly Cherokee, if they're not on the roll, if they're not on the racist rolls, then you never you can't be a part of us. You see, you can't be a part of us. So my question is though, knowing that, so we were forced to be called so many different names, the latest being African American. I see now they're making a comeback saying people of color, is that we're reverting back to the whole color thing. We call Negro, this and that. Knowing that you reject all of those terms, how do you identify today? What do you identify as today?
Oh, you asked me what do I identify myself as?
Yes, you and your wife. What do you identify as today? Since you reject black.
Yeah. Okay. What do you go by? You can tell.
Car.
No, your race.
Oh,
What you put on the census.
yeah, me baby. Indian African.
No. Indian African. It was
African Negro.
African Negro.
African Negro. Excuse me. African Negro.
And on mine, and then she put down on there the race. She put down Tika. On mine, I put down Indo-African and Yoruba. And that's what I put down because I want to connect to a people, not to a color. I refuse to do that anymore. I cannot accept that because my ancestors didn't have an opportunity to speak for themselves. And what we call, quote unquote, in the United States, we got this right, the freedom of speech, whatever. I intend to use that. So I try to make sure that I get that Indo-African. The Indo is the India part, the Southeast Asia. I tried to cover every part of me that I could. And then I looked them up. There are Indo-African people that are in India. So if anybody says, well, he made that up, no, I didn't. They're called Indo-African people. So that's what I go by. Any questions? Okay. Here's another place you want to look. And I just wrote some of these down so you can have them because, gosh, I had a bunch of notes and I ain't even got off 2 pages yet. The Department of Agriculture. You want to look at that 1850 and 1861 census. That's another place you can look to find some of your people because of property, land that they own, or the slave owner. That's another place. Then you want to pay attention to these words: colored, black, mulatto, mixed blood, musty. You want to look at that. Look at that, even pay attention to it on the census. And I think I've already spoke to you some about the laws of assumptions. With that, I took a class where we have been, Africans have been called over, I believe it's about over 1,000 different names they give us as color, as race. Now talk to us about chattel. Plantation slave owners. That's another thing. I could tell you, some come off of tobacco, some come off of rice, some of them come off of sugar cane. Sugar cane, most of the time you will find a lot of Native Americans who would come out of the sugar cane. Doesn't mean there were not any blacks at all or African Americans at all, but most of them were Indians. The Department of Interior is another place. And this book, if no one's ever read it, you need to read it. I'm reading it now. It's called Before the Mayflower. That's the book you want to read. Any questions? If not, we're going to move into some stuff about slave code laws. This was done a lot in the South. Slave code laws. Slave code laws was laws that came under people like free people of color, Africans, enslaved, mulattoes, and each state, I do know because I've got those three out of North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina. Each one of those states had their own slave code laws, which means us as Africans would have to abide, excuse me, would have to abide by those slave code laws. And I'll give you an example. One was where my family was like free people of color. Whenever they wanted to decide to get married, a lot of them had to ask somebody in the community to see if it was okay. Then our legislators in the book, I've got it. You mind going to get me that book? I'm going to show them that book.
Okay.
I forgot to get that. Thank you, babe.
Mm-hmm.
Out of that, they would get permission whether they could marry who they wanted to marry. They had to get permission. And also doing that, free people of color got a different status, but I never saw free people of color as something that was keep saying that we were free, because these slave code laws that free people of color was under was written under slave code laws. Number one. Number two, the laws that they had to abide by if they owed a debt, then they were taken back to court. Instead of going out maybe on the plantation, you was taken before the sheriff, and the sheriff would take you and he would put you to work. And he would make you work that money, work that debt off. Wouldn't that be another form of slavery? Work. Ain't that what we brought here for? Work. Worked us. Worked us hard. If you got caught messing with a white woman, that was punishment by death. Your church, if they didn't like the way you run your church and didn't do it the way you wanted it done under slave code laws, they could shut it down. But here's what's so dangerous about this. People don't know this. And I got the general statutes on them. All these slave code laws are still on the books. We need to pay attention to that. Some of them have never been taken off. That's important right there. Any questions about that? Nobody got no questions? I ain't doing that good. Okay, here's another place you want to look. I gave you the word manumissions. Indentured servant. An indentured servant is a form of labor in which a person is contracted to work without a salary for a specific number of years. It came under a contract and it was called indenture. The person called could enter it voluntarily for compensation or debt repayment, or it could be imposed by the count as a judicial punishment. So that's another place you may find, because some of this indentured servant actually even applied to white people. What does indentured servant mean? It's a contract between the individuals in which individuals work not for money, but they paid them in a loan by a certain time period. Also, indentured servants would be sold. They could be sold. And that included white people too. Or loaned. They could even be loaned out. Or they inherited, especially during the contract. They could be inherited. Stay where they were. What is the difference between an indentured servant and a slave? The difference for them is that was a form of debt, which means it's almost like similar to sharecropping. My third great grandfather, that's the wrong book. My third great grandfather did that.
I thought you said before the next one.
I did not. It's the one on
Do you have any other books?
Yes, I got it. I'll show it to you since she got it. Can you see it?
Yeah, you have. Okay, before the Mayflower, do you have any other books that you recommend?
Yes, that's a book I recommend you read. It's a very informative book. It'll tell you a lot what went on before Columbus ever got here. The difference I said was from slavery, that it was a form of debt bondage, meaning that there was an agreed upon term of unpaid labor that usually paid for the cost. It's almost like sharecropping, but you never got the debt paid. A lot of that went on. Sometimes they would trade it out for, I think it was housing and clothing. Many indentured servants was white. They were working class white immigrants from the British Isles. That's where they come from. Also included thousands of Irish people. They were involved in this as well. They all were often treated horribly by the masters. Many died before they even got set free. Any questions? Did everybody get the book before I move on this book? Because I got another one I'm going to show you. Everybody get this one? Could you see it? I'll just hold it there for a few seconds.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, David. Here's the other one. Especially if you have any roots that tie back here to North Carolina, I especially recommend you get this book. Everybody got that one? We bring it up a little closer. Can you see it, Brother Justin?
Yeah, I can see North Carolina.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have. I typed it in the chat as well.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I recommend those two books. Very important books to read. It'll give you a much better understanding of free people of color. Because North Carolina called a lot of the people here that name. I have some of that in my ancestry. Free people of color, mulatto, mixed blood, Indian, black, Negro. I have a lot of that's been on a lot of the death certificates, birth certificates. Got a lot of that. Okay, here's another one that I'd like to look at here. You get, since we're on this. This is a good one. Some of you may already have him. Dr. George Frazier. This is a YouTube video. The title is called Black People Are Heading into a Second Slavery. I'll repeat it again. If you want to write it down, Dr. George Frazier. The title of the video is Black People Are Heading into a Second Slavery. The second video, YouTube video, is I am not black and you are not white. I am not black and you are, yes. And the next one is by Jacqueline, that's Jacquueline, Battlora, Battalora. The name of that one is called Birth of a White Nation. She's going to break that down to you, how the name white came into existence. And it came in 1681. Yes, that's her. How that came about and why that white name was used. It will give you and I a better picture of who we are and why we should not be using terms that don't relate to none of us. Here's another book that I also put down because there's stuff that's out there that we don't know anything about. It's called Medical Apartheid. That book's hard to read, and I'm telling you. I'll give you just a little bit. You're going to find where this African family thought that their loved one had been buried. Guess where it's at? It's hanging up in the museum. And it's still hanging there today because they were saying that African American people's body structure was different. And they wanted the people to come in the museum and see this. And it's hanging out today, and these families still fighting to get that body taken down. You can go and tell me what was wrong. My wife, you can tell me what was wrong. Yeah.
The reason
Give my throat a rest.
the reason why they wanted to put it on display and they think it was a difference is because the child had I think she had like a crippling disease like arthritis. And if you know anything about arthritis, it will deform your body. You'll be crooked and your hands will turn under, your feet will turn under, and it will just contort your body and make you look like make you look like a creature, in other words. So back then they really didn't know a whole lot about arthritis and stuff like that. So they thought that since that person was made like that, it made us different. But it is not anything that were different. It was just something that they thought was new. And like Jerry said, they have been trying for years to get that person's body laid to rest, and they will not let it go. And I think it's a sin and a shame that they won't give that body back to that family.
So that's just, I've got to go.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you want to look at that. And here's something else. In 1860, I wrote it down. What did I do with it here? Yeah, here we go. In 1860, the Census Records indicated that there was 200,112 free blacks were living in the North. But there was another 287,958 free blacks were living in the slave-owning states of the South. Those who research African Americans must therefore be open to the possibility of encountering an antebellum free black ancestors. So what I did, I went in and looked and I found black enslaved population of the United States from 1790 to 1880. In 1860, the total was 4,441,830. Total free was only 488,070. 1850, there was 3,638. 3,638,808. And only free was 434,495. 1840 was 2,873,648. 386,000 free. 1830, 2,328,642. And 319,594 that was free. That was just a little bit of information that I wrote down. And here, I'll hold this up where you can see, where you can look on the muster roll. where you can find that on the muster rolls? Can anybody see that?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? Okay, you're not saying anything, Brother Justin. You didn't say, you spoke, but it didn't come through.
I was telling my son to please stop making noise, but no
Okay.
no questions for now.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions at all? Please feel free to ask me.
So everything is good, brother. Brother Jerry. Everything is good, and again, thanks again to sister, our Chica sister. She was able to explain a bit more about the arthritis and everything. So that's good. Everything is good. Anyone got any question?
One question. I'll give you this as my final question. Well, I say my final, maybe my final question for the discussion. So I'll be 28 years old in January. And so most people my age, when I tell them about this journey of rediscovering my roots that I'm embarking on, when I tell them about this, they are not necessarily enthusiastic or interested. And I get a question a lot, and is that, okay, why does that matter that you can trace back, 2 or 3 generations and so forth, or that you can identify with an African ethnic group? They always ask me that. Why does that matter, and how would that help us out today? They'll say, you may know that information, but how is that going to help us out today going forward? So I direct that question to you. I have my way of answering it, but I want to hear your way of why does this matter now? And how would this information help us out today?
Okay. Actually, I was going to add that in my conclusion. So I'll just make this my conclusion, a part of the answer. For me, it freed me. It freed me medically. It freed me with knowledge. It freed me with knowing who I am. It freed me with being able to relate. It put me where I didn't have to hold my head down for my ancestors, but I can hold my head up for them and myself and my family. Plus, it took me away from being stereotyped from something that never did relate to me. See, I have a lot more to talk about with this, but I just tried to summarize it down. There's a lot more to this. I just highlighted some of the stuff that I have. And I say that to say this to us: when your children, our families are not interested, I say stay the course. And I've always believed, because of my ancestor from my grandmother, who was, when I was 12, it passed away, how she spoke to my spirit. And somebody will pick it up, Brother Justin. So what you're doing and I'm doing and others on here that are doing, this is not going in vain. We must tell the story because no one got the opportunity until we came along. So for that, I don't have to walk down the street because I pay attention. This opened my spirit up to a lot of things. I don't have to walk down the street where I live, where I still see us as African people or people of color, black, whatever you want to call us. Where we walk down the street and we still see the European coming and we still get on the right-hand side and we still bow our head. I don't have to bow my head anymore. And I don't do it to be like I'm trying to be the tough guy. I have some dignity about me now. You can't tell me what I ain't, that I know what I am. It helped me for my medical purposes. It helped me to understand a lot about some of what we do here in America. And I'm not knocking any of this. Some of us who is African have come here and done very well for ourselves, but it never ever really was you. Because if you connect to where you come from, this would have never been what you would have been doing. So what I'm saying, we living out a whole lot of somebody else's dreams that really never was ours, even though it turned out in a good way. For me, if it looks like that old poor country guy who lived in the village, I'm cool with that. I'm home. It keeps me with my religious beliefs, everything about me. I have no problem with that. So when you got family members, I got some the same way. I don't mind telling you, I have a brother, I don't even speak to him about it. Because when I told him that we had white ancestry, oh, he just flipped the script. But I learned, no matter how we can react to something, if you know the history and I got the test and things to prove who you are, it's okay for you to act that way because I still know the truth. And it doesn't change the facts of who you are. I just don't need to press upon you, and respectfully so, I need to leave it alone. But just move forward. And that's what I do. And doing that, I've had governors. I had the governors here, there. I'm waiting on a call now for them to archive a lot of my family history. Because of the work that I've done, people come to the historical site. It opened me up to a lot of things. It was part of my calling that I wasn't looking for. Didn't know why Grandma Bessie was saying, I need you to go find this. And then when I did, I go drive 2 or 3 miles and come to find out why she lived over here. And this part of the family got this kind of treatment, which is more to the story that adds to all of our stories, got the treatment that she got versus what they got. And it was only like 13 miles apart, living in the same area, just a little county short across the line over. It just opened up a lot. It's made me be who I am and what I am and where I really come from. I'm proud of that. And I say this to us. We should embrace, no matter what it is, we should embrace ourselves and take that and be proud of that. Because we were left to tell the story that they couldn't tell. And that's what I intend to do until I can't get up anymore. When it's my last time to say it, I'll do it. I have to. I cannot let it go. Because every time I speak about this, Grandma Bessie sits on my shoulder and I hear that whispering voice speaking to me, saying the same thing she said to my daddy. Don't get in trouble, boy. Be careful. I'm proud of you. So it's freed me in a lot of ways. It's made me a better person. It's made me speak to people in a way that you just can't tell me just anything. Because I know your history. See, I didn't talk about that today. The Europeans come here. They came here on a slave ship too. One of them was in the Santa Patina and Maria's, one of them ships. They came on it. They gave them an option to come here. Some of them came here and some went to Australia. They had a choice. Why? Because of their promiscuous ways. It's so much that has affected us as an African race of people in this country. It's a wonder that we have the sanity that we do. Because some of the things that we've done and we've done in this country came from what we were taught and made to do. And we need to reach out to each other and try to help one another instead of cutting each other down. We need to go after our people. They need healing. They need mending. And that's why I love helping people. I don't mind sharing the information. No, I don't have it all. No, I ain't the greatest at doing this. But what I do my best. I thank y'all for this time. I thank you for this opportunity. It gets emotional sometimes for me because the old ancestors just kick up me. I'm surprised I stayed as calm. Usually I'm just look like I'm angry and mad, but I just pray the Creator keep me calm today to speak about this. But it's just because I have such a passion for this. I love what I do. And I'm passing on to my grandchildren. Anybody's having trouble getting their kids to sit down. I think we've gotten away from some of our culture, like the Bantu people. They are doing things in Bantu, never been to Africa, that I see white people doing over here. They stole a lot of our culture, y'all. It's ours. It's not theirs. We need to start embracing those things. That may be a story for another day I can get in and talk about. It's a lot to know. Some of the cowboy looking like stuff they're doing it in the Bantu people doing it in some of their dance. I saw people now when I go to church, I saw them getting up in the church and they start to shout. I see the African coming out of them. I see it in a total different light now. They doing stuff, don't know where it come from. Because we've been so European taught. That's my story.
I hope you can hear that. Wow.
I heard it. I heard it.
I don't know.
Thank you, Brother Jerry. I
yes.
appreciate everything you shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother.
Please, everyone else. Thank you for that, Brother Michael. Everyone else, if you have any questions or comments to add to Brother Jerry's his wonderful presentation, please at this time come forward and speak it.
I just wanted to say thank you, my brother. I was listening in and I dropped the mic. Yeah. You're amazing. And it's always good to get educated, about our people and our past. I think that's important.
I helped that sister right there find some of her history.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Brother Jerry. I mean, what I'm gonna say, I'm just glad to bring you on the show, and I mean the knowledge you got, and tracing our people and everything is just amazing, and I just wish that we're gonna be able to have you again to continue helping us to reconnect and then to search and then to look to find our people. I'm so amazed about the knowledge and everything. And again, thank you very, very much for that.
Yeah, I just want to say I enjoyed everything I heard, and I'm going to check out those books.
Did it freeze up?
Can you repeat it, Brother Al? Can you repeat it, please?
I said I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed everything I heard, and I'll go check out those books.
Thank you for that. Our brother Bill has arrived.
Oh, Bill. I wonder what
he's here.
Brother Bill.
You made it.
Finally. Very good. Good to see all of you.
Good to see you, my brother Bill.
You too.
Good to be seen.
Yes.
Made it.
Jerry Ward figures that one out. Not being
Yes,
used.
Yes, I can.
So we just found out today that it's actually supposed to be Jerry Warden.
See how I mean?
Jerry Warden.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
The EN was cut, but was cut so he doesn't find any good way to replace his ancestor, so they remove the EN.
This would be true.
Yeah.
Brother Bill, I hate you missed it.
I do too. Who's the young lady next to you?
This is my wife, June. She's too called.
Hello.
Oh, is
how
that
are
right?
you?
Yes.
Okay. Married in the family. Very good.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in
I'm trying-
Atlanta. He did the presentation on Martin Luther King stuff I told you about. He's the one who
Okay.
did it. It was great too.
All
It was
right.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Well, we got a long life together. You'll get it again.
Yeah.
I'm afraid, Brother Jerry, you're gonna have to restart again for the wife.
Say it again, Brother Malcolm.
Brother Bill have to come back again.
Yes.
You need to do that again because she missed it.
Well,
Yeah.
this was recorded, right?
It was recorded. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I do want to say to our brother Jerry as well, as you know, this is your platform. It's just as much as it's mine. It's just as much as his brother Bill's and everyone else's. So if you feel like you have more to share on this topic and you didn't get it all out, please, we can do a part two. We can do a part two and then we can dive back into it because that's what this platform is for. So I just want to lay that out there. That's always open.
I didn't get it all out. So
No, he didn't.
no, she knows I didn't. There's so much more to know. And I don't mind doing it. It's not a problem.
Can I say something, please?
Please,
And thank you
please,
for the
ma'am, please
platform,
do.
Okay. First of all, I thank y'all for y'all attentiveness to my husband. And this is the first time I'm going to say it, and I don't usually talk about my husband, but I must say that I am very, very, very proud of him. And this is the first time, believe it or not, that I have heard him teach. Because when we go to the historical place where he teaches, I do not get to listen because I have other duties that I've had to do. And I'm very, very, very proud of him. Not because he's mine, just because of how he has allowed himself to be used and how he is willing to share what he knows. And I know that it comes from his heart because I know that how much he studies. And when he gets the opportunity to talk, I appreciate y'all people listening to him because he does it from his heart. And again, I thank you for y'all attentiveness towards him. I think that's what makes him like y'all just a little bit, maybe, because he's trying to reach his people and he's trying to learn about his people. So again, I thank you from my heart and I love y'all. Thank you.
I got a question. Did you listen? You said they listened. Did you listen? No, I'm
I
kidding.
listened because I was sitting right here.
That's great.
That is.
She's my support.
Yes. How long
Can
have
I
you
say
all been
something?
married?
We'll be married 46 years, December the 20th of this month.
Praise God.
Wow.
Very
Thank you.
good.
Yeah.
That sound like a celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah.
You know, I wanted to apologize to my queen, June. I apologize, sister, that I didn't let them know that you were Tikar. So I apologize. She is family, y'all. They
That's
both are.
okay. Look,
They both
we
are.
can't remember everything, but thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you know, I just had a birthday, so you know I'm old. You know, that's the first thing that goes is a birthday. So I apologize.
Apology accepted, but it wasn't necessary.
Well, I want to apologize too. I guess I missed most of what Jerry and I was trying to get, but we had, my wife and I had a Christmas concert that was planned. And it's interesting enough, she said it was 5 o'clock. So I knew I wouldn't be able to make it. And it's up about 40 miles from here. So we wanted to leave at 4. But as we were trying to leave at 4 and going up the highway, she got another thing on her text that said, no, it's at 7. So I said, whoa. So I turned around to go back and I said, and then she texted another friend of hers that said, no, it's at 6.
Oh, Lordy.
Oh, my goodness.
So I missed you because I kept going up and down this highway trying
to.
And as it turned out, we couldn't go anyway because it was sold out. So I rushed back here, and unfortunately, Gary didn't pick it up. But I know it's recorded, so I will listen because I really wanted to listen to what you had to say, and I will, and I take it seriously. And I thank your wife for saying what she said because it comes out, no doubt about it. From the first time he started talking, we knew this was somebody we need to listen to. So
well, thank you all. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. And me saying that, I want to say this too, that it's I very humbly take this spot that you gave me today, and I try to use it to be a help. And I hope that I did help somebody today. That was my goal. I'm just an old country boy. What I say, I don't try to be fancy. I'm just who I am. And you know, I love what I do, and she done said all that, but I just thank Brother Malcolm for asking me. I take that and take the platform very seriously, and I'll do my best to never bring reproach to this group, but come with a good heart, with a good purpose, that we all can grow so we can go. That's one of my sayings, grow so we can go. That's what I want. Because I'm about movement.
Thank you, brother Jerry. You see, I mean, when you start talking, that convinced me to actually book my Ancestry DNA. So I did it while we was actually having the show. And I can't wait to find out, who are my cousins, who are my dad family. And I hope that, you'll be part of that. So I'm going to find you. So
I will do that.
Actually tell me about all my family, everything happened on that side,
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you put that thing in a GED match, you're going to start having names that will pop up on GED match, and it actually will start giving you pie charts. Mm-hmm. You got to go in and look and see where they're at, and it'll tell you even more and break more stuff down about you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to get it. I mean, I've ordered.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I don't know how long does that take. How long does that take actually to?
You should get that test back. See, if you just did it today, you should have it back sometime by the middle of January, not soon.
Oh, that's good. So that will see my birthday. Hopefully, then I'll be on the 12th of January. So hopefully, I'm gonna have it before.
Right.
Live on the show. Live on the show.
Right. Just remember, when you see all those other regions on that test, that means some of your people was in that area.
Yeah. Okay. So you did Ancestry.com as well, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And a lot of you guys, you did as well. Brother Bill, you did Ancestry.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah, I did that. I did 23andMe first, and then I did Ancestry.com.
Okay.
And then I did AfricanAncestry.com in order to tell me who I was.
Exactly. Exactly. I got to do the 23andMe, get the rest of me out of that one, Bill.
Yeah.
In my case, I think the Ancestry or the 23andMe is what I need to do, because obviously the African the original one. But if I just want to test really who I am, then I can do the African Ancestry. I may see that maybe they say that I'm a present day, maybe Ghana or something like that.
Exactly.
But I started with that because my aim is to be able to connect with other people, who actually did Ancestry.com as well. I'm related to this person, to that person. I can't wait for that.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry to ask this question, but Jerry, so what you did Ancestry.com?
Yes.
And what did it say in terms of the top, let's say, 3?
The top 3 was, the first one was Nigerian, then Cameroon and Bantu peoples, and I think the third one was Mali.
I think Mali.
Yeah,
but see, Brother Bill, you got to be careful with that. Mali. The reason I say it, you got to go back to the old maps. A lot of those places that they have broke us down to be in, we actually all are just one of those people, because the old maps will show you that was really geographically done, and this is today. So when you go back and look, like Nigeria actually is nothing but a part of Mali. They got that name through the British when the British turned it back over in 1952.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I remember looking at an old map, the whole empire of Mali way back when, then included some of the, Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, see, that was not the same thing. It was all created. It was one thing. See, there's another old map that's out. Africa itself, and Mali was included in all this. That old map showed Africa to be nothing but called Upper Ethiopia and Lower Ethiopia. That's what it was called at one time.
Whoa.
I got a copy of the old map.
Okay. Was any of it towards the western side, or was it mainly the Eastern Africa?
They split it right like you do the equator. It was just like split in the middle.
Okay. And upper and lower. Okay.
And upper and lower. Yep.
That's very good. I'm excited. We're excited, my wife and I, if everything goes right, and with this new COVID-19, not sure, but in March, we're going to Egypt, and we're taking a Nile cruise.
Oh, okay.
So,
I hope you can do that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we're going to go into Cairo. I hope to have a side trip to Alexandria, then it's going to be 14 days in total, 7-day cruise down the Nile River. And so I'm looking real forward to that as the beginning of my pilgrimage than over to Cameroon. So I want to do it the way the brothers did and the sisters did it and come over. So God willing.
Yeah.
I said,
you're in my presence.
That's where everything started.
Yeah, I know.
That's awesome.
We had
that's where everything started. So
about 7 years ago, we had a chance to go to the Holy Land. And so we did the whole Israel thing, didn't get down to the Gaza Strip, but now I want to pick it up in Egypt and just continue the journey. So looking forward. So that's good information. And I'll look at those old maps.
Yeah. Old maps where you find where me and you. Why is that important? Let me say this real quickly so you can know this in your research. If you start thinking you're going to find you out today, how did you get to be at the age you are? What does that mean? You got to go back. When you look back, we like 2 generations from being out of slavery.
Yeah.
So when you see that, then that means that's where you're going to find the real you, because there will be so many things that will be different, even with the people then versus what you see in Africa today.
Yes. It's incredible. Thank you. Yeah.
They weren't as mixed like they were then, like they are today.
No, they were pure.
Because you remember they were bringing slaves. That's another point I need to make before I go. Thank you, God, for bringing that back to my mind. We need to also think about what we were brought to the UK, because I didn't want to make sure I didn't leave this out. From the UK, any African American person that was brought enslaved out of their country to this country. Think about how historical you really are. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the people that they come to get, to bring to the United States to do their lazy work. We were strong built people. They didn't come and get just people that couldn't do anything. And for that reason, we need to be proud of our heritage, just to know that we were not weak people. So we need to take our strength back and walk in our strength. Go find ourselves, go find our people, and start walking the street with your head down when you meet white people. Hold your head up when you know who you are.
Yes.
We were strong when they come. They didn't come get nobody weak. Remember that. They come and got strong people.
Right. That's exactly right.
We need to walk that out.
Yes.
We owe that to our ancestors. We owe that to ourselves. We owe that to our children so they don't forget. I got to shut up. I can keep talking.
No. Jerry, I'm going to pick up on that because you're absolutely right. And those of us who came out of segregation, that was a key point.
Yes. To
raise your head up and start looking at people eye to eye, because that was not the way they wanted us to do.
Absolutely.
We were supposed to be submissive, keep our head down. In fact, if you just looked, especially at a white woman, you could lose your life.
Yeah.
So we grew up as a matter of survival with that posture. And I think I said this with the civil rights movement, once we started 68, we started raising our head, we started wearing our hair, we started talking about Black power. Yep. And it was important for us as a people to say Black power and to act like we had the power that Jerry's talking about. And we had to put that in ourselves and then translate that to our kids that said, you are more than a conqueror.
Yep.
It's incredible who you are. And you survived all of this stuff and still surviving it.
Yep.
So I think, Jerry, kind of that has been a little bit less with the last 2 generations, 2 cycles of our kids.
I agree.
And it's left up to us who are kind of grandparents and elders to remind our kids, our young people, you're not what they think you are. You are much, much better than that. So
we've lived out, Brother Bill, too much of, and I don't mean this as being prejudiced. I'm saying it because of a historical. I'm looking at it from a grassroots perspective.
Yes.
We have lived out too much of their dream and we've never lived ours. Let's go get it.
Yes. And they're scared because we'll get it. They know you'll get it.
Exactly.
Because they always know we've been strong. They're scared of us.
Brother Bill, I'm writing a book right now on my family. I told the class about it. It's called The Sawyer and the Ward Family, The Lost and the Found. Out of that, I found the family that I thought was all gone, but they weren't. Now I am on the board at the historical site where my family's buried at.
Wow.
When they get ready to do anything, they come to me and ask me about what's this about a book. What do I, so and so and so on. They used to take it upon themselves, and a lot of information they have is not correct. I come to validate us, not only historically, but respectfully, with morality, with a standard.
Yes. Morality, a standard, ethical.
Yes.
Yes. I'm through too. Absolutely.
I love you guys. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. And when is this going to come out, you think, Moncon?
Tomorrow.
Couple days?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow I'll put it on YouTube and then send you the link. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Sorry I missed you, but I'm glad I saw you. All of you.
Okay, you too, my brother.
I'm glad that you came. I'm glad that you came. You know, we always love Bob Bill. You always love when Bob Bill is there.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully part two will be soon.
Justin face when you came in.
Well, let me just quickly say, because y'all know I have a lot to say, but Justin, I was in your state for Thanksgiving. I went to Columbia, South Carolina.
Close
and where are you?
I'm in North Carolina. I'm just right up 77. You just right from 77.
Yes, I was. Yeah, I went 26, but where my family's from Barnwell, South Carolina. So we went to Columbia, met some friends there, visited friends, and then went through Barnwell, took some pictures and to go across the Savannah River to Sardis or Burke County.
Right.
And their people have, my friend's people have a 500-acre farm. And the beauty of that is they didn't sell the land. It's in the family.
Thank you.
It's in the family. Yeah. And they grew it from 100,000 and it's a centennial land, what they call 100 years ago they had it. And they've grown it to now 500. And he grows cotton, peanuts, and sweet potatoes.
Wow.
Oh my.
So for the first time, and maybe I'll put this out, I had a chance to actually pick cotton.
Oh.
Yeah.
And never put my hand on pick cotton. I had my wife out there. We were picking cotton. And it was just an historic moment of thinking, this is what my people did.
Yes.
But there was no bathroom. There was no water. You had to bend down. And then the brother who was showing it to me said, now pick this cotton. And then he said, and he brought a sack, a cover sack. And he put it on his shoulder. He said, you put this. And he said, every day you had a 300-pound limit. Limit. You had to get 300 pounds of this cotton.
Wow.
I want you to think about that. 300 pounds of cotton.
That's so light.
Yes. And so he had an old weight that they used to use in the field. And they you dump it on the ground, you pull up the four ends, you'd hang it off this weight to see if it was 300 pounds. Now here's a problem. People don't know. If you didn't have your 300 pounds, you got whipped.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's right.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it gave you a real understanding in this of what our people went through, and the reason Jerry's saying they had to be strong and mighty and tough to get that. And that's women and men.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really historic, personal moment to say, this is what so when you said I'm just a farm boy, man, I got a real appreciation for what that means. You know, and
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm through.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that, Brother Bill. Thank you for sharing that. I mean,
yeah, it's real. As much as we can find out about our past, man, the better we are at knowing who we are.
There you go, Brother Bill.
Amen.
That's a good word right there. I don't have to
Yeah.
say nothing else for the rest of the day on that.
Hey, you guys know what? You guys know what? I remember when I was a little girl, and we went on vacation, and my dad, we went through to Louisiana. You know, go through all the little places when you're driving back south. And we pulled up, and it was cotton growing on a tree, and I was like, "Wow, what a beautiful plant!" My dad said, "That ain't no plant." And I said, "Yeah, it's pretty." So he said, "I said, let me see," and he started explaining what it was, and I was like, "Oh wow." He pulled over and he let me, pick a piece off. We probably would have gotten in trouble if we got caught, but he let me pick a piece off. And I was like, wow, I thought in my mind, wow, this is crazy. It's not so bad. And my dad got so angry at me. He said, this is what we had to suffer with picking this stuff for hours and hours all day long. Our hands were raw. And he was just explaining it. And I was like, I was such a little girl. I didn't understand. But I look at it today and I'm thinking, wow, that is crazy. I got a chance to feel it. I want my kids to go out there and see what it's like, because it's growing on a tree. And it looks so weird growing on a tree, but this is what our ancestors had to pick. And it has like little grooves to where there's no way that their hands weren't raw by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add one quick thing to what you just said, and Brother Bill was talking about it real quick. Not only did they take that cotton, and if they didn't have the amount that they were supposed to have and got beaten, even when they did have the amount that they were supposed to, and if they was doing any type of sharecropping, the master would raise the price up on what the slave owner owed him. The slave rather owed him. He would still use that against him, and you never got the debt paid. I think that's some of what's happened with my third great grandfather, who was called a free person of color, who got written out of something that he came out from, and the clear-cut deed is not cut on the land deed.
Right.
It was some hidden stuff that went on behind the scenes. I'm digging into that. I will find it. If it's the last thing I do, I plan to get to the root of that.
Good. It's evil. It's evil.
Wasn't there? There's a thing also where this little boy, his dad didn't have enough when his dad didn't have enough when he finished, and at the end of the day, the little boy was punished for it, right?
Sometimes they were. Most of the time, they ended up just either beating them, or you stayed in debt because you couldn't get the debt paid, because some debts was done to pay because that slave was buying property, and they wanted to keep them on the plantation. So what they did, they would work them, and then at the end of the year when they was to pay it, you didn't get it. And if you talk back, you got a beating, and sometimes it's even killed or even taken off the plantation and split your marriage up.
Yes.
See, there's so much more to this, the way we have been done. I didn't get into that. That's why I say I want to break it just a little bit, see how we can handle some things.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
It is. It's cruel. It's evil. It's everything. And it's still, they're trying to hide it with this critical race theory. They don't want. But no, true crust to earth will rise again. And it's rising.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
It's rising right now.
Yep. And I hate to say it, the chickens have come on the roost against them because of what you sow, you reap.
There it is. There it is. Okay. I'm going to leave this so I won't say anything else.
I'm going to lie and say I'm tired of looking at you, Bill. I'm kidding.
I'm going to put my hands over his mouth so he can hush. Nah.
Brother Justin, now.
What'd you say, Brother Mark?
No, I'm giving back to Brother Justin, and then when we're ready to close, like Brother Bill normally do,
okay.
He just pray for us, so at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
So I guess in that case, Brother Zaria, I want to thank you again and extending that invitation for you to come back and hold part 2. We're all looking forward to that. And so we did your final thoughts earlier, and in case something else came to you, if you want to close us out once again with something that you want to leave us with to remember before closing this meeting, I want to give you that opportunity, and that'll be the last thing that we'll hear tonight, and we'll close the meeting.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, I want to say some of this stuff didn't get to apply much to Brother Malcolm as I'd like to for it to have been because of the slave trade. He ended up being in the UK. I want him to know I do recognize that in this class that I had. It wasn't intentional of leaving him out or anything like that. But there's things that he still picked up on that I'm glad that he did get to do that. So it helped him with his DNA and whatever. And I'm still here. Thank him again for that. I would just like to end it by saying it like this. There's a song out there that Mary made. Go get it, go get it, go get your blessing. I just like to end it by that. If you want to be blessed, go find you, go find your people, go find from which you came. And when you do, you'll never be the same. I conclude with those words.
Thank you. And for that, everyone, we'll see you next time. And Brother Jerry, keep in mind when you want to do part 2, and we'll do that. So have a good night, everyone. Good to see you. Please take care.
Brother, it's a plane today.
What do you say, Brother Malcolm?
Brother, is not praying for us today.
Yeah, Brother Bill, pray.
Brother Bill, go
ahead. Okay, we're going to let God have the real last word on this. And thank you, Lord Jesus, for this assembly of your children from all over the globe. Thank you for all that you have done to bring us together as brothers and sisters. And Lord, thank you for the knowledge and the learning and the enthusiasm and the inspiration of this whole gathering. We bless every family here. We thank you for them, and we look forward to the next time. Thank you, Brother Justin. Thank you, Brother Monkan, for just creating this chat.
Amen.
Brothers and sisters in love. And it's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Ashe.
Ashe.
All right. All right.
Amen.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.